but as a whole 60 reps, I don't really back. I think oftentimes actually PTs and just trainers in general will make their clients do like 50 rep sets, for example. In reality, there's a difference between annihilation and optimization, and annihilation may leave you feeling battered, may leave you feel like you regret everything you've ever done in life, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see the results you want to see. The crossover we never thought we'd see, but we're probably glad we're seeing it. LeanBeefPatty and Will Tennyson. Will is somebody who's actually come up in the comments section quite a lot with people asking me to look at him. And then obviously I saw this video and thought, you know what, 2 birds, 1 stone. LeanBeefPatty and Will in one video together. What's bloody well occurring? We're looking at a leg day destruction. And I'm curious because I've already seen the video, but we're going to talk about a few bits and bobs and throw out some tricks and tips along the way. So their first movement is actually a lying hamstring curl. They're doing 4 sets of 20 reps with 30 seconds rest. Ultimately, I actually think for a leg day, starting off with the hamstrings isn't necessarily a bad thing, even if you're squatting. So for example, myself, I often start with a lying leg curl too before doing any kind of squat variation, because ultimately my hamstring training or doing my hamstrings first isn't going to negatively impact my squats, so my performance will still be there. But also my hamstrings are probably an area that likely need more work than my quads, like for many people. Therefore, doing them first can allow me to put more energy and emphasis into them, because I think you should sequence by order of priority in a lot of cases. 4 sets of 20 reps is a bit wild. That's a lot of volume. Again, do you need to do sets of 20? I mean, you can. There is technically in the hypertrophy rep range, which is about 5 to 30, but realistically, the majority of my work, even hamstring curls, will often be in the 5 to 10 mark. Unless I'm doing them twice a week, I may push up a bit higher, up to 15. But if you are only, let's say, getting 5 effective reps, you probably don't need to do sets of 20 before squatting, as this may actually fatigue you more than you would like to before squatting. 30 seconds rest, I do think is a bit too shy. Sure, it'll get you very warm and get the blood flowing, but when it actually comes to building the muscles, as we know, I spoke about this before, that there's actually research suggesting that resting for longer, potentially 3 minutes plus, especially men, may actually promote better hypertrophy results than resting for shorter periods of time. And I think with 30-second rest periods on lying leg curls, you are really going to be taxing your respiratory system, your breathing is going to be all over the shop, and ultimately that may actually take away from how effective the movement is and the working sets are for the target muscles being the hamstrings. So 1.5 rep squats, I actually think 1.5 rep movements like this certainly have a time and a place, but maybe not necessarily for a free weight barbell squat. For like a hack squat or something similar, absolutely, I probably would include it, because again, the hack squat and squat variations in general are typically quite length and position dominant. Therefore, doing 1.5 rep movements, you're actually spending a bit more time in that length and position. Therefore, that could promote a greater hypertrophy response. Just theorizing there. But no, I do think 1.5 reps do have a time and place, but again, probably more for machine work myself, especially as breathing is going to be a really limiting factor and core bracing is going to be a limiting factor for like a barbell squat. I feel like I would be absolutely frazzled by the end of the first 2 or 3 reps, just because I'm maintaining that breathing for so long, maintaining that core bracing so much, stability as well, so many things to consider. But sets of 8, probably nearer the top end of like rep ranges for me when doing like a multi-joint movement, like a squat for example. I wouldn't push much beyond then, depending on the reason as to why I'm doing it. But 4 sets of 8 is bloody hard in squats, bloody hard indeed. If anyone's done sets of 8 on squats, you know it's just nasty, especially if you're pushing to failure and training hard enough. It is nasty. So Bulgarian split squats, 3x12, 1 minute rest. With Bulgarian split squats, whether you hold the dumbbell in one hand or 2 hands is completely up to you. I think you can whether you hold it in the side with the working leg or the side with the resting leg. Again, that's completely up to you. Personally, my preference is holding a dumbbell in both hands if you have the stability and the balance to do so, but you can certainly do one at a time. The big thing here is just making sure that you are consistent with whatever you choose. So if you are going to choose to hold it in the resting leg's hand, then keep that consistent throughout the working set. Tempo is a bit off here. You can see they're kind of rushing through the eccentric especially, and they're kind of not fully utilizing that range of motion at the top with the glutes here. She's obviously got that forward lean as well, which suggests this is more of a glute dominant Bulgarian split squat. Same with Will, but Will's got the elevated heels, which could actually suggest more of a quad dominant Bulgarian split squat, a bit more upright as well, but kind of rushing through the movement, you see. Also, don't rest your hand on that leg. Same when you're leg pressing, keep your hands off. Put them where they need to be, which is not on the legs. All I would say is that when you're doing movements that I'm kind of talking to myself here, to be honest. When you're doing movements that you hate and doing movements that you really don't want to do, despite knowing that you need to do them, such as split squats, please don't rush through them. I know it's easy to do so, but rushing through them does no one any benefit. All it's going to do is reduce how effective that movement is. Either way, you have to do the movement and it's going to suck. So you might as well just embrace how much it sucks, but get the most benefit from it. Again, I'm probably talking to none of you. I'm completely and honestly talking to myself, because whenever I do split squats, I do often rush through them because I just stand there the whole time, think about all the regrets I have, think about all the people I've hurt and the things I've done. And I wonder to myself, is what I'm doing at this current stage, being a set of Bulgarian split squats, punishment for what I've done in my past? It's a question I don't think I'm ready to answer yet, but it's a question that has been lingering in my mind for years on end, and it's a question that comes to me whenever I do hold 2 dumbbells in hand, elevate that back foot, put that front foot where it needs to be, and initiate the Bulgarian split squat. As soon as that knee starts bending, my feelings start hurting. A very quick plug, just for 2 seconds. TFNL community coaching is still a thing, as always, linked down below in the description, or maybe even the comment section as well, where I write programs for everyone, for them to hop on board with, follow them at their own pace, and talk to each other when they've completed the workout, see what was going on and what didn't go well, what did go well, and also give me feedback to then help me structure the next block on the next program when we get down to it, which is about every 8 or 9 weeks or so. So it's very much driven by your goals, what you like and what you dislike. This also applies for both gym and home workouts because there are options for both. In addition to that, the TFNL growth guide, again, as always, is linked down below in the description. So if you fancy having a gander at what I deem to be one of the best fitness resources on the market, in addition to some bloody effective programming, we got 30 weeks of programming in there as well, then have a gander, as it is always linked down below. The leg press, so this is actually a vertical leg press, something you don't actually often see on the line because they aren't very common in gyms. So vertical leg press, again, I think it's a leg press variation. In all honesty, they give me anxiety because I just have this idea that I'm going to do my set on the leg press with every single plate in the gym because I'm just so abnormally strong. I'm completely lying to you. I would definitely not do that. I'm not as strong as I wish I was. And then something's going to slip. My foot's going to go elsewhere. My leg's going to go that way. I'm going to do the splits. I'm not that flexible. I'm not even going to pretend. And then suddenly I've just been absolutely pancaked by a machine. All I'm going to say is if that ever happens and you see that happen to me where I've been pancaked by a machine, I just have one request. It's too late for me. You can't save me. Just please load on as many plates as possible. Fill the stack, pile them on top of the machine so whoever comes past me and sees what's happened thinks that I went out lifting more than any human has ever lifted before. And I want them to think that I'm stronger than I actually am. That's all I ask. It's the only request I have. That applies to anything. If I'm ever benching and I fail the bench press and I'm just pinned there forever, pile on some weight. Make it look like I'm stronger than I am. Make it look like I'm more impressive than I am. If for no other person than myself. But yeah, the vertical leg press is definitely a thing. It definitely has a time and a place. If your gym has one and doesn't have a normal leg press, then sure, go for it. The leg press is great for working the quads in their mid position. But again, if you do have a regular leg press, I wouldn't be opposed to favoring that. Again, I don't think it's bad whatsoever. It's just for me personally, I get just the anxiety of being crushed would linger in my mind forever. But perhaps I would enjoy it. Who knows? I don't want to clarify. I meant enjoy the leg press, not enjoy being crushed. So Sumo RDL 3x10 1 minute rest. This is interesting. I don't think I've ever actually seen somebody do a Sumo RDL. Ultimately, if I'm looking at like the glutes and the hamstrings, I think if you adopt a Sumo stance and do an RDL in that stance, it may ultimately limit how effectively you can lengthen the glutes and the hamstrings, which could potentially reduce how effective this movement is for its intended purpose, but that actually really depends what its intended purpose is. So again, that's really down to you and what you're trying to achieve. But for me personally, I can't see a situation where I would often include a Sumo RDL over a conventional RDL if I'm looking at targeting the glutes and the hamstrings. Mixed grip, again, I don't back the mixed grip on an RDL. I try and mix grip as infrequently as possible, unless like you're competing with the deadlift. Even then I try and favor like a hook grip if you can, but mixed grip can lead to some rotational issues, which obviously you can counterbalance to an extent with things like pal-off press and anti-rotational movements that very much work the obliques. Again, I would try and limit how much you mix grip as much as possible. I'm not saying don't mix grip, I'm just saying reduce how often you mix grip. So for example, with the deadlift, sure, mix grip if you need to, but with an RDL, use straps if you can. If I'm correct, this is one set of 60 reps with a goblet squat. It is one set of 60 reps with a goblet squat. Sure, this is going to absolutely annihilate you. You're going to feel like you've made some mistakes and you're being punished for it. I know, I do split squats occasionally. That's a lie. I've stopped doing them. Please don't hate me. I'm sorry. 60 reps is going to be really hard. Is it going to be massively effective for like the quads and whatnot? Kind of no, because the stimulus to fatigue ratio is not very favorable. You're going to get very fatigued doing so. But also things like the breathing is going to give out more than anything. The legs probably won't be as fried as you might think. Obviously, they're going to be fried, but compared to like how hard you're breathing and your heart rate and stuff, those are things that are likely going to be really holding you back versus the quads. And again, that's also partly as to why I'm not a massive fan of the goblet squat in general. Also, holding the dumbbell is going to be taxing itself, the shoulders, the arms, the core as well. So I think goblet squat, you can include it if you want to. I think including it at the very end of the workout was actually probably the best place to include it, because your legs are already going to be pretty fried, so therefore they're closer to failure already and won't need to go through as much to reach failure. Therefore, the limitations of like breathing and the core are going to be less impactful. But as a whole, 60 reps, I don't really back. I think oftentimes actually PTs and just trainers in general will make their clients do like 50 rep sets, for example. In reality, there's a difference between annihilation and optimization, and annihilation may leave you feeling battered, may leave you feel like you regret everything you've ever done in life, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see the results you want to see. But again, that actually very much depends on your goals. So 60 rep sets may have more of a time and place for different goals. So let's say if it's maybe more endurance based, perhaps that could be a consideration. But if you're looking at hypertrophy, I'd probably avoid 60 reps myself, especially if you're actually arguably only getting 5 effective reps of that 60. That's not a very good trade-off and not a very good investment in my eyes. Interesting seeing LeanBeefPatty and Will working together, because I think they're both really good personalities within the fitness industry. I think they both do some really cool stuff, and although my training doesn't necessarily align with both of them, they're obviously doing great things, they're achieving great results, which is fantastic, and it also highlights that there's more than one way to achieve what you want to achieve in the fitness industry. This is just my take and my preference and my opinion, very much based on what's worked for me and also based on the literature. But at the end of the day, if they're achieving the results they're happy with and the results they want to achieve, doing what they're doing, then what's the problem, you know? I think they've got a good personality match together. I think they make good videos together. I'll be interested to see more collaborations. I think as a whole, I'm a fan of LeanBeefPatty. I think she does fantastic things, even though I don't necessarily agree with everything she does, and the same applies to Will. I really am a fan of Will, although I don't necessarily consume a lot of his content myself. I think he's got a great personality, he's great to watch. I think he's got some good messages in there as well. It's good. It's good collaboration. But now we're going to quickly crack on with comment question of the week. Could you maybe discuss nutrition when it comes to improving fitness/strength? I'm trying to get stronger and do the best to nourish my body, and have even looked into protein supplements, but someone who can't do dairy and doesn't want to eat as much meat, I'm very lost in how I can improve. When discussing nutrition, it kind of means like in what context? I mean, ultimately, if you want to optimize how much muscle you're building and how much strength you're gaining, arguably, you want to eat enough protein, which is going to be at least 1 gram per pound of body weight. And then when it comes to fueling your body, you want to eat more calories. Essentially, you want to be in a slight caloric surplus to then give yourself the energy you need to help drive the signals to progress. Doing so, especially when limiting meat, I think is very doable, very, very doable. You've got things like tofu, you've got things like lentils. Pasta in itself is actually quite protein dense. You can even get protein pastas as well now. There are so many options, and I think there are so many meat-free and dairy-free options on the market, including vegan supplements such as vegan protein powders that are a lot better than they used to be. 5 years ago or so, they were pretty nasty. I'm going to be honest with you, they did not taste very nice. But recently, they've done some good bits. You can find some dairy-free protein bars as well. There are lots of options out there. I'd actually be very curious to know if anybody in the comment section has any thoughts and opinions. Let me know your favorite dairy-free and meat-free protein go-tos down below in the comment section, be that meals, be that snacks, whatever it may be. I'm really curious to know, because it could also very much help this individual out as well. That is it. That's the video. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating the lack of cats, because they are somewhere. I just don't know where they are. And thank you for tolerating the video.